Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. Welcome to Facebook Live. Today is the 21st of July, year 2021. Welcome, everyone.
Hello.
Hello. Today we are actually joined by one of our members on Facebook, Michelle. And Michelle, did you want to give a little bit of an introduction of yourself?
So my name is Michelle Arregoitia. I have been an avid reader and follower of Eckhart Tolle's work for, I guess, over, 13 years. I think The New Earth had just kind of come out and started to listen first to The Power of Now, actually, on a road trip. So, and then just was like blown away how everything resonated, and then started reading A New Earth and looking at the webcast that he did with Oprah Winfrey, and through YouTube videos and rereading, and I've always stayed connected, so it resonates really deeply with me, so I'm happy to join in.
Thank you. And of course, our incredible Eileen, that not only contributes to the panel and gave a really emotional story last time that really moved us. So she does an incredible job of keeping us seamless going. So I posted your question, Michelle, on the chat. Did you want to read it?
Yeah, let me see if I can pull
it's on the it's on the Zoom chat. If you look on your Zoom chat.
Okay, here we go.
Okay.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, so I was hoping to join in, and so obviously I am able to be here, but wanted to pose a question that I've been contemplating for a bit now. So in religion and in psychology, we hear about the role and importance of hope. Within the context of Eckhart's teachings, is hope just a projection or expectation of living in the future? For example, things will get better at some point down the road, instead of just living in the present moment and offering acceptance of what is. I'm not referring to faith, as faith to me means that one has a deeper knowing. Hope has a sense of some future moment or longing or attachment. So I'm curious just to know the panel's thoughts on this.
Okay, I'm going to paste this. Good evening, April. Thank you so much for joining. I'm going to paste, I don't know if you see the question. So Michelle is one of our fellow members that actually has been online with us, and she posted a question. So I'm going to put it back on the chat so April can read it. And Michelle, if you want to start talking about where do you come from, like as far as your topic is concerned, what did you want to discuss?
I don't know. I just think that we hear that word hope thrown around, like, in society in general, in so many different circles. And I don't think I've ever heard through, what I've heard Eckhart really address that, right? So hoping, to me, it seems like it's a longing for something, an expectation. I'm hoping that things will go well. I'm hoping to go somewhere. Like, so it's always a projection in the future. But I don't know if there's like a different way to look at it in the context of his teachings, right? Because we're always like in the power of now, always living in the present moment. And that's not to say that you don't have goals, but but whatever you're doing now, you're doing now. But so I was just kind of like maybe a little confused, just kind of like, is there a role of that idea within Eckhart's teachings?
April, are you ready with the response, or you need some more time?
I don't know if am I ready?
And since I didn't get a chance to introduce April is one of our regular panel members. She's a psychic and a Reiki healer. Quite a few long resume of healing modalities, so I won't go into it. She's a spiritual teacher as well. So April, the question is yours.
I think the question is a good question. I think it's a deep thinking question. So it shows that we've been doing some deep thinking here. But I think it's appropriate. So for hope, it does have a bit of an expectation. Hoping for a better outcome, hoping this will work out, hoping that doesn't happen, hoping things go this way. So there is an element of expectation to it. But from what I have experienced myself and from what I see, in order to have hope, you have to be in touch with presence. Because if you were not in touch with presence, with source, you would not have hope. When we lose all hope, it's because we have lost our connection to source, right? So that's where I think it does play a role in Eckhart's teachings, which is about presence and being in the moment. So yes, it does carry an element of what is going to happen or could happen, but I can tell you that the more that I practiced being connected with source, and the more that I practice knowing that everything has a reason, everything has a purpose, everything has a place, the more I can rest in hope. Does that make sense? The more I can know that even though I don't know the answers, I'm not sure how this is going to work out, I'm not sure if that's going to happen, I have that sense that it will be okay, which I think is also a part of hope. I mean, unless you're hoping for bad things, but usually you're hoping for something to work out, you know, in your best interest. So I think it does play a role in presence. From what I know in my life, times where I've been down, it's because I lost hope. And if I'm losing hope, I'm not feeling presence. I'm not feeling source. So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You're taking hope as actually the feeling tone of hope is what actually allows us to move forward.
And it allows us to have faith in, which she brought up faith, but it allows us to have faith in presence, in source, to know that all works together. You know, I've had some times in my life where I have been very, very depressed, very sad. And at those times, that's when I lost hope. But that is how far away I was from my presence, my center, my source. So I think they do intertwine. I think they do play together.
Thank you. Thank you, April. So we welcome Caesar as well. Caesar has joined. Caesar is a channel and a spiritual teacher and a musician as well. So he has joined the panel. I will go to Eileen. Caesar, I'll give you a few minutes to read the chat because Michelle, who's with us as a guest today on the panel, she's a fellow member on our Facebook group. She asked this question that is in the chat. So since we've already read it and we are discussing it, I'll let Eileen answer and then we'll come to you. Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Eileen.
First, I want to say that it's synchronicity. I've actually been spending probably about the last 2 weeks trying not to use that word.
Oh.
Trying not to use the word hope. Isn't that funny? Because I have a tendency when talking with other people, like to say, well, I hope you feel better, or I hope that you get the job, or I hope it stops raining for your party. Do you know what I mean? Like I have a tendency to use that word in that way. And I'm trying to get rid of that habit because I shouldn't be like hoping that I can the weather cooperate. Do you know what I mean? Like I shouldn't be hoping that it cooperates. I shouldn't be like, Jillian and I talk all the time, like we create our own reality, you know? So I've been trying to break the habit of using that word, and instead saying things as if they are, or being grateful for things that are, being accepting of what is, being grateful for what is, and not having expectations. And that's something that I've worked on for a long time, but just in the last 2 weeks, I noticed that word a lot. And it was like, wait a second, like, no, I need to stop the use of this word. So that's the first thing that came up for me. The other thing that came up for me is that I'm not saying that I want to think negatively, because that's not what I'm saying. But like I was saying a few moments ago, like we create our reality. So whatever it is that, you know, we desire or whatever, we should be treating it as if it is, being grateful for it and letting it go. We should be accepting that phrase of like, there's a couple of them actually, but like, this too shall pass. It's like something might not be going right now, but being fully accepting that this will not go on forever. I don't need to hope for a better future. I know that there will be a better future. I might not know what those details are, and I don't need to know what those details are. I can let that go. But so for me, I just feel like that's not a word that I would like to use, but that not everybody is where we are in understanding. So it's not that I would discourage somebody from using it, but in where my brain is right now, that's not what I'm trying to encourage. I'm trying to encourage, you know, creating of my own.
Yeah. Am I okay to speak?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I wasn't sure if I was on. Yeah. Cause when I worked with the conscious manifestation, I did that course with Eckhart. And so that manifesting piece is more like, you know, vision what you want for yourself, and then you let that go, right? You work towards it and then you let it go, but you're almost imagining as it's already here, right? I mean, a lot of teachers have talked about when you set a goal that you always envision as it's already here. So and then accepting of whatever shows up in that journey, right? And so it's kind of like always, you know, that kind of tightrope balancing act. So I don't remember him mentioning that word. So I was kind of just curious. You know, to me, it always is an anticipation of something. And I understand what you had presented. I'm sorry, I forgot your name.
Eileen?
No, April. And that's an interesting perspective, because I think it does kind of have that when you're in that despair, and I've been there too, you know, so I think we all have, otherwise we're probably not showing up here, but that there is maybe in those moments, you know, that yes, even though I'm feeling this way, I'm hoping that tomorrow something else is going to show up. I'm going to be better. So I can see that also, you know, but it has to me a connotation of future, and that's.
Yeah, I agree. We actually had an incident happen here at our house the last couple of days, and I remember, because I've been focusing on not saying that word, I remember thinking like, I wanted to say, well, you know, I hope that this is resolved soon or something like that, and I like stopped myself and was like, okay, how could I rephrase this? You know, I know that this will resolve itself. I know that this particular thing has an end. I know. And Lakshmi just actually in the chat box said, I changed the word hope to I know, and it helps her. And that's kind of like what I was doing, even though it wasn't ceasing at that moment. But like, I know that the truth of the matter will come out. Like, I know. Another thing that she said is there's some amount of disbelief in hope, which is kind of how I felt. You're thinking it may or may not happen. So that's another reason why I'm kind of trying to get away from it.
So the difference between what April said and what you said, right, Eileen, I feel what April was saying is hope to her was more the feeling tone that, yeah, there is something there for me, instead of like complete depression, right? The feeling of hope. So there's one thing of feeling of hope, which is almost like having a trust that something will change or something. There's a feeling of hope, but there's also the word hope, as in, oh, I'm hoping that this will happen. And that is a projection in the future. Yeah. So there's two differences to just the way I understand how y'all said hope. The other part to it is, and this is from the book, Nature of Personal Reality. In my book, I picked out this section because it was so meaningful to me, because what Seth says as he's channeling this book through Jane Roberts, he says that thoughts have an electromagnetic frequency, but they also have an inaudible sound, and that inaudible sound has an intent to it. So, you know, just like Dr. Joe Dispenza says, what is our intent? When we use the word hope, what is the intent, the feeling tone of that intent, right? Is it something that we are projecting away into the future? Or is it something that in this present moment, I know something is going to change, right? So I think that was the difference between what Eileen and April are saying. April is saying, in this present moment, I know that something is going to change, that I know that hope is there in me. Right, April?
Yeah, that is what I was referring to with that. And I agree with Eileen, because in NLP, that neuralistic programming, hope and the word try, those are two words that we eliminate. We don't allow in that teaching. So we do eliminate the word hope, the word try, the word but. We eliminate those words because hope and try, I mean, I'm going to try. No, you're going to do. You're going to choose. And hope is the same way. Well, I hope. So what Eileen is saying, instead of saying I hope, which is similar to I will try, you're saying I choose. I choose that this is going to work out. This is working out. Like yeah. So what Eileen said is absolutely correct. Yes. In that aspect of hope, we should eliminate. And in the when they teach you about creating courses and things like that, they'll teach you to drop that word. So when you're talking to people, you don't say, well, I hope this helped you. No.
I know this will help you.
Right. Yeah.
Thank you, April. Thank you, Eileen. Thank you, Michelle. Caesar, you want to say something about this topic?
Sure.
Thank you.
So I caught the tail end of Eileen, and I heard perhaps the tail end of April, and of course what she just said. Yeah, lack of trust really of what is and what will be. The only thing we can do as far as setting up a good future is to have a successful present moment, and that is to be completely present within. And if, like Toli says, if there's something that needs to be done as far as planning for the future, you plan that and don't get caught up in the destination of it. And perhaps expectation or whatever. But yeah, hope to me means almost like a lack of trust. And it suggests that something is lacking. We know change is the only constant thing in this universe. Things are forever changing. You have the ability to kind of direct what it is you want to change and what you are trying to manifest. And sometimes by hoping, you get caught up focusing on the lack of whatever it is you're hoping for. And that means you're getting in your way of allowing that whatever it is you're hoping for to show up in your life instead of just trusting it. Beautiful explanation, April, about the words try and but. Yeah, that's Abraham Hicks is a master word manipulator as far as you'll catch her cleaning up the sentences of people often, and for that very reason, because when the only thing we know that keeps us from obtaining what we're trying to manifest is resistant thoughts about it, focusing on the wrong end of the stick, so to speak. Them are words that should not even be in the dictionary in our vocabulary for obvious reasons. So hope is definitely to me again lack of trust of what's in your future. As long as you're into properly and positively in that energy flow of what it is you want and you're after, just believe and know, like the lady said, for sure, 100%. That's very important. The hope is like dancing around the fire. Faith is jumping through the fire. Just like the difference between knowing and believing. Is there a difference? Well, of course there is. If I told you I was looking at the back of my phone and there is 3 letters, a dash, and 5 numbers, would you believe me? Would anybody believe me? Wouldn't matter because it opens up the door. Yeah, there's not. But the point is that if you've seen it, you would then believe it and know it to be true. Hoping that you was right isn't going to get you there. So, yeah, I fully agree with the lady's analogy of that. You watch, the hope, the try, the buts. Yeah, make them go away.
Yeah, I love when Abraham Hicks or Esther Hicks says, somebody calls in with this partner that needs to love me so much is missing in my life. She goes, missing and missing and missing and missing. And what are you manifesting? Is the missing. I love it when she does that, right? This partner is missing. She'll repeat that sentence that person said, and then she'll just say missing and missing, and she'll really rub it in that what you're focusing on is the missing. You're not actually, the partner is there, right? In the quantum field, the partner is there. They're missing because that's
mindset.
That's what you're manifesting.
Yeah, right? Beautiful point. What you're hoping for is already there.
Exactly.
That's step 2. You ask, you send the rocket of desire out. It's already there. God has already answered. Now you just got to get out of your way. So maybe you're hoping for the proper alignment, but it is there for sure.
And so, Michelle, I'll ask you. So Eckhart actually has done a talk called The Source of All Trust. And so he talks about trust. And even in his talk on transcendence through stillness, he says the same thing about the trust, right? Trust is true faith, is in that connection to source. So how do you know of? So we don't hope, we have this trust, and in our knowing a trust. So you want to talk about the trust?
Yeah, I think you have this vision for your life. And if you're true to that and you work on that, I do believe that trust that everything is for your highest good, even the suffering, even those black nights of the soul, right? The dark nights of the soul, as you're going through them, it's kind of like you can go away from it because your dysfunctional mind patterns start to take over. All those negative emotions, you start to almost drown in them. But if you have that presence, that if you've practiced it enough, it kind of finds its way through it all, right? And then the light starts to emerge, and you have this deep knowing that at the end, everything is going to be okay. You know, I mean, you know, the fear of whatever it is you're going through, and ultimately it's right, the fear of death, you know, you have to accept that, you know, you have to accept that and trust that that's just the way it's meant to be, you know what I mean? And we live our lives and we do the best we can, you know, to anchor ourselves every day to, I don't know, to live with integrity, to live with, you know, your own vision of what your life should be. And I don't know, it's given me a lot of peace, you know, following the path has given me a lot of peace through the darkest of moments, you know. So I trust that whatever my path is, and I can see it in my life, how things have emerged through the years and how we've manifested, my husband and I, you know, good. And then we've had moments, you know, where, you know, last 2 weeks ago, my son, you know, I'm going to just share something. I mean, I saw him 5 minutes preparing a salad. I go down and he is in a full-blown seizure and blue in the mouth. And I'm panicking. Like, it's kind of like your instinctual mother, like you're panicking. You can't believe you're going through this in that moment. And then it's reverting back to like, I don't know, primitive thinking, right? And screaming and crying and calling 911 and gasping for air. And, you know, you're in that emotional state. And then he's able to come through, the paramedics come. And as I contemplated, like I'm almost seeing myself go through that. And as I contemplated that afterwards, I'm like, well, you know, in the moment, I wasn't able to hold presence. I mean, you know, but I'm able to look back at it and say, okay, well, I'm human, right? We're all human. And in those moments of crisis, right, you think that, you know, you do the best you can, you know, and then you just kind of like, well, you know, that could have been it, but it wasn't, you know, but eventually that will happen. I will pass and everybody. So it's that fear, right? That fear in that moment is so thick and it just gets you in there, you know? And then only after you've kind of sat with it for a while and say, wow, you know, yeah, I've grown, but that human element is still part of me and I have to accept that, right? Because that's all our journey in this world. So anyway, yeah, but at the end, you know, I know that following his teachings have always taken me to a much more peaceful place. So.
Hope your son is doing well.
Yeah, he's well. He's okay. Thank God. Yeah.
Wishing him a speedy recovery.
No, he's fine. It was just a very scary few minutes there. But you know, you live and learn, right? Every moment is a teaching moment, and that's what I try to take from any, you know, difficult days or difficult moments, is reflect back upon it and, well, how did I handle it, you know? And you know, if I wasn't that great, I'm like, okay, well, you know, it's a lot of acceptance work, I think.
Mm-hmm. And it's a lot of look back, and to me, if I didn't handle a situation correctly, then it's like, okay, I need to generate more presence power. I'm about to sneeze. Excuse me. Thank you. So it's more like now is that particular situation has taught me I need to generate more presence power. So I need more of my stillness practice. I need to withdraw from the world, right?
Yeah.
That's all it is telling me. There's no story to it. I don't put a story to it. I don't just think, it's just, if I reacted, then that means I need to generate more presence power. And I let it go. So thank you, Michelle. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
April, did you want to talk about faith? What does faith or what Eckhart says, it's not so much as faith, it's more trust in our conscious connection to source through alignment with inner beingness, right?
Yeah. I think it is trust. It is faith. That faith is in believing in something that is we can't see or touch or feel or taste. That's faith. And it is similar to hope. It is not the same as hope. Faith is more of a, like Eckhart is saying, a trusting, a knowing, that inner sense of knowing that these things are true, that these things, that this, it's about knowing that source is with you. And also knowing that, like Michelle had said, that things will work out in the ways that they're meant to work out. And when you have faith, so it's not like you don't, I don't want to say you don't try harder, but you don't try harder. I don't know. You don't. So like Eileen was saying, you put the desire out, the want or the wish out, but then you, and Caesar said this too, then you have faith that the universe is going to answer. So it doesn't mean that you don't get up and go to work, or maybe you don't make that phone call, or maybe you don't open that email, but it is not our job to make it all manifest. It's our job to have faith that it's already manifested and it will show up. That's the faith.
Thank you. Thank you, April. And Michelle, you were talking about the manifestation part as well, since April brought up manifestation. The way Dr. Joe Dispenza explains it, right? He says to be in that quantum field, to draw from the, what Abraham Hicks says, to draw from the vortex, right? We have to be completely in the non-resistant mode. And the way Dr. Joe Dispenza explained it, that non-resistance is almost like you have to be in an exalted state of beingness. Like you are at the top of the world where you're experiencing joy, like pure joy. So 2 or 3 weeks back, we were talking about, like I wanted to start recording my coursework on like this online course creation platform. And then I was talking to April and a few of the members about doing some workshops. So I was very much in that exalted, oh, yay, we are doing something that is actually going to impact the world, right? And world around us. When I say world, not meaning a huge part of the world, but the world around us. So I thought of, hey, can I get a job that I can start working from home, kind of remote job? And I saw a Facebook post, like right as the thought arose, I saw a Facebook post. So that is what Eckhart was able to do. But remember, Eckhart took 28 years till he was 40 something. So it took him 22, 25 years to come to that space of allowing, to remove all his karmic accumulation, to remove all his patterns, to come to the point where he could think of doing Power of Now, and he manifested it. And then Oprah recognized the power of now, right? When he asked for acceleration, he was able to manifest the power of now. But it took him, whatever, 25 years. We've been at this, 10, 12, 15 years, right? We are not still at the 20-year mark. So it seems like it takes a little bit of time to get there. Eileen, do you want to talk about, and then I wanted to say what Caesar, you have to talk about what you posted here when it's your turn. I'll let Eileen speak about faith and hope and trust. What is faith? Is it trust, or what does faith mean to you?
To me, faith is, it's funny, our podcast was this 2 weeks ago, is like a knowing. And knowing, even though it's like an area of unknown. It's like knowing that, you know, that what's meant to be will be. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's a knowing. That's what it is to me. And it's funny because we had a long conversation about that word. And it's a challenging word for me, but that's just because of my history. But I definitely have been using it more in the last year or two, because it's just a knowing. And I think that the word trust comes along with that. You know, in order for you to have faith, it's that you're trusting, like, you know. Sorry, we have a sick child here.
Wishing your child a speedy recovery.
Thank you. My book.
The Law of Attraction. Oh, awesome.
This is the book that I won.
Fantastic.
Very excited. Yeah, she'll be fine.
Thank you. Thank you, Arlene. Cesar, you want to talk about faith and trust?
Sure. Faith, yeah, is trusting, and hope is perhaps a lack of trusting. Don't know how else to explain that one. We know that whatever situation we have been through and probably will go through, not probably, will go through, things have always and will continue to always work out for us. It's that simple in a nutshell. Whether we are, maybe we perish from this planet, that works out too in the end. So to have that type of faith, knowing, I mean, I experienced death, you know, of my favorite little buddy not too long ago, and it tore me up for probably a good day. And now looking back, made it through it. Gosh darn. Like, I don't carry that around every day, and I can think of them today and smile. But I can also look back on that time and say, wow, that was, you know, that really poked my heart pretty good. But I know at the end of the day that, again, you know, this too shall pass. And so one of the things I like to keep at the forefront of my mind is, you know, one of the Tolle sayings, die to the past every moment. And that is true, because whatever you encounter, you leave it there. Leave the sleeping dogs where they lie, and stay where you're at. It's always a good place to be. You know, life is still going to happen, of course. You know, there are going to be some uncomfortable, perhaps trying times, you know, in what lies ahead for us. But them are almost, to me, I don't look forward to them. I don't feel like I shy away from the things because I know they're going to happen. Life is going to continue to happen. It's going to continue to be a roller coaster. You know, I'm trying to maintain high vibrations and be positive and feel grateful as much as I humanly possibly can, and try to excite myself through the day, beginning at the, you know, early onset of the morning. I mean, you and I go back quite often about, you know, intending the day. Every, you know, quite often in the mornings, I'll see one of the positive posts from Boonham, and I'll comment on it. And, you know, we recognize that we're in for a beautiful, wonderful day. And I can't think of a time where it didn't really work out that way. There might have been a couple moments within that day, maybe that weren't so shiny bright, but, you know, for the most part, they feel good 99% of the time, you know, the moments within the day I'm speaking of. So that faith, to me, as I learned, that regardless of everything, it's just like saying, I trust the universe. because I know it's always conspiring to work with me and for me. And my job is to flow with it, get into a vibrational frequency that feels nice, and then just ride that wave of life, because that's the energy that I want to align with, is stuff that feels good. When there's an interruption in my current or my momentum, I try to stop it immediately, because it don't feel good. So I like to, do this to my friends sometimes. I don't want to talk about it like a little kid. When negative things are brought up, about what's happening in politics today or what's going on in the world. Not that I'm not interested in it. It's going to be what it's going to be. I have no say or thoughts about it anymore, because that type of stuff just doesn't feel good anymore. And so again, it's important to stop, create the good momentum. And that starts when you go to sleep. I like to do a little guided meditation by Wayne Dyer. It's like a 6-minute, tape that just rolls the same thing over and over, but it's talking about trust and how you trust that, the universe is always working for you. God, source, whatever you want to call it, it will bring the answers at the exact moment they're needed. And the idea of that is to fall asleep, in that slumber right before you fall asleep, and get into that awesome feeling of gratitude. And gratitude is trust. It's knowing this is perfect. And as long as I stay here, as long as I'm grateful and feeling this way, I'm vibing at this level, I can't ask for anything more. And then when you sleep, you marinate in that, of course, and then you wake up, and the goal is to, when you open your eyes, don't let thought rush in. I mean, Totally speaks of this often. And you don't even need a reason to feel grateful when you open your eyes. Just opening your eyes is a reason enough to feel grateful. And then you hold that for a couple minutes, literally, and then put your feet on the floor and smile and start your day, and then try to build on that momentum as the day progresses. And it's the little comments back and forth like that you and I sometimes share, Poonam, that helps me enable and create that momentum. And you get to a point where you just know you're on that wave. And that's, like I said, when something comes to interrupt that current, it is important to disconnect that and get back on the right wave. And then just ride that out to the end of the day. But that, faith is saying, knowing everything is all right. Things are always working out for me. They always have, and they always will. There's going to be little disconnects and interruptions of, what feels good in our life, but trust that it will pass. Nothing is forever. The hardships and, and the trying times included.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Caesar. And what you wrote was, this is from Abraham Hicks, things are always working out for me, is her saying, right? She's always saying things are working out for me. I think Byron Katie says the universe is always working in our favor. Tony Robbins says things are not happening to me, they are happening for me. A lot of people have talked about that, right? So
yeah, that's one thing she tries to literally beat into your soul, into your very soul. When somebody comes up and has a question or a problem, well, what happens when I do this? Just remember, things are always working out for you. Are they not? And then, of course, she goes on her little rampage for 20 minutes about how things have always worked out for you. Yes.
And what I love about her teachings is, even if it is a loss, she says the contrast is actually showing you, like you shoot, she calls it a rocket of desire. But in the loss, we desire something more. Like if he said there was a loss of a home, we say we want a bigger home. Or if the car got totaled, instead of getting stuck in the victimhood of the car being totaled, we are thinking of, we're going to buy a new car, right? Her thing is look what it made you desire, something better, right? So a loss is also working out for you. It's not a loss, right? Beautiful. So
that's one of them words we should probably exclude from our vocabulary. April, put that in the book.
Which one is this?
Loss
Loss.
is a loss, really.
It's not a loss.
They say that about death. Oh, sorry about your loss. Well, it really wasn't a loss. Loss suggests it's a bad, ugly thing.
So couple of weeks back, and I was saving this question for Kelly. Kelly, we are missing you. He's not feeling well. And so wishing him a speedy recovery, perfect health and healing. We're missing you. And this is a question that everybody can discuss and love on it. What is suffering? April.
She's like, you had to call on me first.
Yeah. What is suffering? Oh, yeah, that's definitely a good Kelly topic, isn't it?
We're missing him. So.
Yeah. Well, suffering, I mean, there's so many different ways we can go on this. So I'll just add in, one part. For what I have found to be true in my life, and then also in what I do in my work with my children, really across the board, is suffering is when we are not connected to source, and when we are in that victim mentality, that life is happening to us, and then also when we live our life from the basis that we're not good enough. That is suffering. And I spent many years not being good enough in my life, many years, trying to be good enough, or trying to achieve, or, do things. And so I think, again, that this may go back to the one thing that I talk about is that original separation, where we come down, and what we used to be taught was, some are still being taught, that's the original sin, right? The original sin. You've come down and you're just, bam, you're a sinner. And it's so funny to me. I just look at this baby and I just think, really? Like, okay, they're just a sinner. I cannot handle it. I can't take it. But so I think that it goes back to that. So suffering to me is when and I work with people, and so many of them, there's a question that I have to ask when I'm working with them, and it asks them basically if they believe in God or what their belief is. And I'm really always kind of floored at the amount of people that say no. And then I think to myself, well, no wonder you're suffering, because to me, it doesn't matter if you believe in God or Buddha or Allah or the frog or a chair, but we need something, some sort of faith, some sort of something bigger that makes it all make sense, right? And when we're out there wandering around and lost, and we don't know who we truly are, and we don't know our true worth, then we're going to have suffering. When you figure out your true worth, that you are part of source, that you can never truly be separated from it. The way that I like to explain it is taking the sun, and the sun has rays that come off of it. Can you ever cut the ray from the sun? You can't. You can't cut us from source either. You're never actually separate. You think you are. But as long as you think you're separate and you think you're less than and worth less, you will have suffering. So I'll start with that part.
Thank you. Thank you, April. Caesar, did you want to talk about this?
What is suffering? Ooh. Okay, suffering is, we'll start with resistance. Suffering is resistance to what is. Suffering is not meeting your expectations. Suffering is loss of what you are attached to. Suffering is falling down on your face in the middle of a cartwheel. Things that don't feel good. The lack of acceptance is really what comes to mind, because we can't change what is. And suffering is a form of, is an offering. Suffering is a lesson. Suffering can be a blessing. Suffering apparently doesn't feel good. Everybody is bound to suffer in this lifetime to some degree. Those who are able to alter, transform that suffering into some type of lesson, ultimately grow in spirituality to some degree. When you can realize, I mean, my greatest, and I think everybody can attest to this, that my greatest lessons came from the things that have caused me the most suffering in my lifetime. To say that, I was the beneficiary of losing of the passing of my mother and father and both brothers in a very short period of time sounds a little silly, but looking back, they were going to go anyways at some point. Unfortunately, they went close together, and very difficult time, trying time, suffering time in my life. But at some point after that is when I realized what was concealed within that. What was the lesson they left me? What was the gift of losing your most valued and loved people on this planet? Where is the gift? There's a gift in there. Yeah, there most definitely was a gift in losing the things that were most dear to us. However, if you don't, let's say if you fail to accept the isness of things of that nature, you will not receive the gift. You will not be able to extract the blessing that is concealed within there. How is that a blessing when somebody perishes that you love so dearly? You sound crazy. There is. You can choose to carry around that suffering and become the victim. That's suffering. That's the resistance that we speak of, right? So it is important, again, going back to what we always say, what Eckhart says, instead of saying, why did this happen to me? You ask, what is this trying to teach me? In those very types of situations. So suffering doesn't have to remain to be suffering. It's only suffering until that energy is transformed into presence, acceptance, gratitude, things of this nature, things that feel good, joy. But it is up to you, like April said. I mean, you cannot be cut off from source. It is them types of situations, quote unquote, through suffering, that we are veiled from seeing and realizing and understanding that we are still connected to source. And that is a great feeling. I've seen many of people go through situations of losing a friend or perhaps a child or family member, and they get mad at God or the universe. There's the God. Why is this? That's a cruel God. Well, this is the way it is. We don't make the rules, and it's not, back to that fifth dimension place, April, when we, when the day has come that we don't have to go through these learning curves anymore, and it's just all, sunshine and rainbows. I think that can be achieved in this timeline. And everybody is on their way always. It's part of the journey. And then for the most part, we can live in that type of atmosphere through our perception of what is and then how beautiful life really is. If you can see that, that can be your reality indeed. So whether you choose to carry around the suffering with you or not probably helps in determining what kind of reality you actually live in. But it wasn't designed. We didn't come here to get beat up and feel sad and, in our suffering. We came here to grow and to expand, and suffering is a part of that. It has to be. And we don't learn much from the mountaintops. So it's through the suffering, I believe, that the greatest lessons are taught and learned. And you better had learned them lessons when life doesn't feel good, because it's going to continue to offer them same lessons in various other ways when you don't, when you're unable to master the lesson that is presented to you by the universe. They will repeat just in other forms, and much times the suffering will deepen if you don't get it right. So just always remember that when you go through suffering, it is important to reflect back, go within yourself and extract that lesson. That is your job. You are responsible for your peace. And we don't ask for everything that happens to us, do we? I believe we do. It was all part of the script. Did I create my mother and father dying? Well, it was part of my chart. Does it feel good? No, it never does. But it doesn't have to not feel good for long. So again, it's, suffering is the resistance, things that don't feel good of that nature. But there is also an opposite to the suffering, and that's the goal, to work through the suffering, not be embedded within it, and become the suffering. I'll end there.
Thank you, Caesar. As Eckhart says, every human has been given a spiritual teacher, and that is the teacher called suffering. That's what you're saying, right? Thank you. And I'll come to my understanding of what the suffering is after I go around and ask everyone. Eileen, did you want to speak about suffering? Thank you, Caesar.
Well, Caesar literally took all of the words out of my mouth. I was waiting to, I'm like, oh, and that, because I was going to talk about resistance and non-acceptance. And I honestly don't think I can add anything to what he just said at all. So, nope.
He even took away gratitude from you.
I know. He literally...
The G word took away from...
He did them all. Like, it was like he went down the list, and I was like, well, that was all of it. It's okay, though. I like listening to other people talk about like what's in my head, because then I'm like, oh, okay, all right, yeah, that's what I was thinking too. So I like when that happens. But yeah, there was like 4 or 5 things, and every single one of them he hit. So thank you.
Thank you, Eileen.
Mm-hmm.
Michelle, did you want to say something about suffering? What is suffering?
After listening to everybody's input, it just came up, it's the alchemy, right? The suffering can turn into your gold, right? I know that's the way it's been for me. Had I not suffered, there's no way I would have been on this path. So my suffering was my guru, was my Buddha, was my it was my teacher, my blessing, my gift, even though in the moment you're going through it, it doesn't feel that way. But if you sit with it after that storm has passed, right? And you sit with it and you just say, God, I wouldn't have the compassion, the empathy, the gratitude. For me, that is huge. That's a big G for me. Big God, big gratitude. It's, for the smallest of things we take for granted, right? To me, that's so big, and it keeps everything in perspective, right? So yeah, we all have these really tough moments in our lives, and that's just the way this world was meant to be. And if you can take it in stride and say, this is for the higher, the development of my soul, right, is to be able to say, well, this is the school of life, right? And it comes with suffering. And so a lot of acceptance. And then when we start to identify with that pain body and with the ego and all those attachments, it just brings more suffering, because this is the way we've been conditioned to think, and this is what we've been conditioned to value. And then if you're not rooted in presence, right, in that vertical dimension, then it's easy to get strayed away, right, and taken away on a wave to, all that conditioning that we were brought up with, whether it was our religious conditioning, our ethnic, our religious, my role as a male, my role as a female, my role as an attorney, or whatever. If we start to identify with all of that and not really be able to let all of that go, and really just, okay, well, what is this truth for me? Then we're gonna suffer. We're just gonna it's just gonna be a constant, thing in our life where we can't let go of those chains, right? We hold the key, right, to our own liberation. That's it. And suffering keeps us bound in that jail, right? So I think when you realize that this is just the way it is, right? Everybody has this quote unquote their own cross to bear, right? And it's just how you bear that, or how you deal with it, and then how you respond to it, right? And so if you're able to find peace within all of that and understand that basically it is your greatest gift, like Cesar said, it is. It is. You just can't see it in the moment that you're going through it, right? And so that I always like it's so simple, but not so easy, right? It's in the word human being, right? We have our human dimension where we suffer, and then you have that being. And in just that word, if we can really fully comprehend what that is, it's like we have to live on both planes, but be rooted in the being part of us. So, I think it's, in the end, it's beautiful, if you can get to that point, and we're not there every day. I mean, I know that on some days I can handle it with such grace and ease, and other days, but I think on the whole, if you have more days where you're handling it with grace and ease, then we're on the right path, right? So, my 2 cents.
Thank you, Michelle. To me, so I think even the Buddhists say, right, or Buddha has said that the root of all suffering is desire. Have you all heard of that it's desire? But what is that desire? So to me, from Eckhart's teachings, the way I understand it, and April laid out some of that foundation where she said, we are all born with a sense of lacking in completeness. And because we are born with a sense of lacking in completeness, then there is this desire. In India, there's this word called vasanas. So there is this desire, and that desire is to build an identity. And that identity can be, actually, that'll be my next question. I'll give a small example of identity. So this is something that Eckhart actually talked about in the School of Awakening, maybe the first live session or the second live session of 2021. He talked about that he had I think it was a friend, or he knew of this monk, that there was a Buddhist monk somewhere in Thailand, one of those Asian countries. And this monk, now monks are like what? They remove all identity. Now Eckhart is explaining identity, right? How we have this tendency, our crazy this between these 2 ears. This is what is the suffering. This is how he built identity. He says, monk shaved his head, shaved his eyebrows. He's wearing a robe, one of those orange. And in India, it's like actually in ancient times, they would dip the white cloth in some dirt, right? And the dirt was orange in color. And that's where the orange color comes from, right? So this Buddhist monk was really, really good at being a Buddhist monk. After 2 or 3 years in the monastery, the Buddhist monk sends off his robes to get re-dyed because you wash them and the color fades, right? So he submits his clothes to whoever the laundry guy is, and the guy washes his laundry and gives it back to him. And then he flips out. He gets so upset at the guy who did the dyeing because it's not the right orange color. Now look at identity, right? So I'm going to go around the panel, and April, you're first. What are the identities what are very insidious? You don't, I'm identified with my car, or I'm identified with my 4,000 square foot house, or I'm identified with my title. It's very easy to understand. That's the normal ego that we know, right? From Eckhart's teachings, what do you all understand are the insidious parts of identity? April.
There's many.
You can do 1 or 2. I'll go around the panel, or 2 or 3, and then.
I'm trying to think of some examples that I've heard of or seen. One of the ones that I think that has done a lot of damage and is being undone right now is the identity of the male in populations. Can't cry, don't cry. It's very funny. I actually, when I was about 9 or 10, I decided I wanted to write a book, which, by the way, I still haven't wrote a book in my life. I still want to write a book, but I still have not done that yet. But I wanted to write a book, and the book was about a little boy who wanted a baby doll. But his father, this was my idea at 9, his father, because he was a boy, did not want to allow him to have a doll. And I actually started writing that book as a child. I don't think I ever finished it. I don't know where it is. So, but that is probably one of the bigger identities that I think has created this society that we have of competition, of competing, of climbing the corporate ladder, of how much money do you make. I'm not saying it's the total reason or the total blame, but I think the identity that we have pushed upon people, male and female, but primarily male. My example here, I'm going to use male. It's done a lot of damage just to men. The fact that Travis and Kelly and Caesar are on here, and it's kind of funny because a lot of the bigger spiritual teachers are males, but that's not the common role of sensitivity that we have been taught. What do you guys are sensitive? I mean, there's been a couple of times Kelly's been on here and said, I'm getting tears. Like, what do you mean you're getting tears? When I was growing up, my father was very strong and very dominant, but my father also cooked. I watched him, he would wash the kitchen floor, and then he would go out and chop wood. So I got to see somebody washing kitchen floors, but men have not been taught, you don't do housework, you don't wash the dishes. But what I am seeing is these younger generations. I can tell you right now, when I had my first children, dads don't change diapers. They
Wow.
don't change diapers. They don't do that. And, you know, now I'm watching these younger generations and the dads are changing diapers and the dads are taking days off and the dads are, you know, so to me, that's probably one of the bigger ones that I think that's created, you know, a lot of the chaos and a lot of the stigma and a lot of the lack of evolution in spirituality and a lack of evolution in people. So I'll use that one for my example and I'll let everybody else pick one.
We'll discuss it next week too, because it's a good topic, right? Because not everybody's going to think of each and every way that the ego builds an identity. I think we can talk about a lot more sessions dedicated to that itself. Yeah, and Eckhart, even in his recent on the July talk, this month's talk on his website, he says, if you're male, already you're superior to 50% of the population because you think that you're superior than the other. That's the identity, right? Because in a male-dominated society, you're already, by the fact that you were born male, the gender identification. And that's why I feel there is so much of the LGBTQ community is we are breaking. So look at what the universe, planetary intelligence is doing. It's shaking our thought process up and bringing up a whole different generation with that kind of, okay, they're going to be, you're identified with the gender, let me, you know, like Eckhart says, it's trying to whack the ego out of the human.
I think that's exactly true. And that's exactly why, you know, it's almost with the younger generation, it's almost, it's really kind of crazy right now with the younger generation about, you know, it's not just, I'm not a girl, I'm not a boy. It's, I'm also not anything. I'm not, I have no gender. And some people ask me about that. And I said, it's because we are supposed to be unconditionally loving and we're not. So that's what the universe is doing. It is trying to get us to stop judging. Mm-hmm. Right. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, April. Good discussion. Eileen, do you want to bring up some identity that you think you were like, that's mind-blowing from Eckhart?
Yeah, I've been sitting here trying to think of something. I know there's tons of them. Brain is just tired. I can't think of one at this moment, although I know that there's hundreds of them. I can't think of something at the moment.
What about one of your family members doing the complaining?
Say it again.
Complaining? I don't know, somebody around you does complaining, right?
Oh. Yes.
Okay, let's talk about that.
Yeah, I'm not sure that, I guess maybe I'm assigning that identity, although I'm breaking myself of that. But I wouldn't say that they necessarily identify with that, maybe subconsciously.
And that's what it is I mean, that person that posted something about subconscious patterns and 30,000 people looked at that post.
Oh, yeah.
These are subconscious patterns that we complain and not realize that we are building an identity by the fact that we are saying, even if he said, oh, look at the clouds, why should they be gray clouds and why should it be raining? So in that complaint, we are making the weather like inferior to who we are. We are putting down the weather, which is a natural,
yep,
God's given or creator given, planetary intelligence given activity. And we are putting it down and saying, oh, this weather shouldn't be raining or it's too hot.
Yeah, to me, it's more of like, at least in our situation here, It's more of like a like
Are you talking about a
the
martyr?
other, like the other. Say again?
Are you talking about a martyr? Is that
No,
what? No.
not I wasn't, but I was talking about someone who it's almost like shouldn't happen to me, or like it's that comparison thing. It's like that comparing themselves against someone else. This is happening, but it shouldn't be happening to me. Or like complaining about things that like happen to humans, like they happen to everyone, but like, well, but like complaining about, do you know what I mean? Like it's almost like, not that they think that they're better than someone else, just that they're comparing and then thinking like that it can't be so. Well, it is so. Do you know what I mean? I don't know how to explain that in better words.
But what Eckhart says is when an individual human being complains, that is what in their complaint, that's what they're doing. Because there's a way of correcting, like something is going wrong. Let's say I got a hotel room and my bed is not made. All we have to do is call downstairs to the front desk and say, hey, I need fresh sheets, right? But they'll complain.
Yes.
So the complaining is putting down the situation. They're feeling superior. In that moment, insidious ego is feeling superior to the situation, which is just, yes, this is the present moment. I need my bed changed, and that's it. Yeah. We need a bed changed.
It drives me bonkers because I'm always like, yes, but listen to yourself. I can't tell you how many times I say that. Like, listen to the words that are coming out of your mouth. Like, that's not changing this situation. You're just adding more and more and more suffering.
Yes. And that ties to the suffering, because in that complaining, we end up creating suffering.
Yep.
Thank you. Absolutely. Thank you. Caesar, do you have an example?
Sure. I think what Eileen was trying to say is like, when you identify with something, it's almost like saying that relates to yourself. It gives meaning to as having some significance in your life and how it affects you. Like the word in itself, identity broken down as ID, entity. So, I mean, it's just a perspective of many different labels that you put on something or someone as their identity. What do you identify with opposed to your very identity? Who you are to you? Are you who you profess to be? Who are you? What are you? I was known for years as a drummer. And today I don't identify myself as a drummer. I play drums. The whole identity thing is just a big compilation of labels, I think, and, to other people's perspectives. To attach that to one particular, I mean, God, the list is long and great. I liked April's theory there, and what she was saying was extremely true, because naturally we feel that we are only one half of the whole, being male or female. I think that is naturally embedded in us as far as a desire. And Kelly, I'm sure, would tell you that it is very important to be inside with the feminine side as a male, and vice versa. Female to be, in touch with her masculine side, in order to achieve that feeling of wholeness. And perhaps that's why we as a gender feel as though we have to have a partner to complete this circle of wholeness, in being that we are only half of the entire equation of male and female as being one. my nickel.
Thank you so much, Caesar. I'm trying to think. This is like chapter 2, 3, 4, 5 in A New Earth, where Eckhart goes deeply into ego and identity. Identification, he means, is, I think the FAC is Fakr, which in Latin it means the face, like make it the same as me. Like he gives the example of a kid, even if they had a stick for a toy, the moment they lose the toy, the stick, they're crying and having a tantrum because they built an identity. The stick became part of them, right? I made it the same face as mine. And one of the insidious parts of this that I see is how much are people identified with their own opinions and they want to make the other person the same as them. Like if I do laundry a certain way, and that's why, I follow Eckhart's manner of being in that situation. There is no like real organization to the Facebook group. Yeah, we have some moderators, but there's no, he even doesn't have like an organization. And the same way, because people get identified with their, like he doesn't say, oh, you have to do meditation or you have to do this to achieve your presence practice. Those are the tools. Like the portals of presence are meditation, inner body work, breath work, but he never dictates, you have to do 60 minutes of meditation. Wake up at 3 a.m. in the morning and now you sit cross-legged and do your meditation. He never says that, right? So people get identified with their opinion as well. And they want you to do things and they'll get very, very upset. Like if you didn't throw the trash or take out the trash the way they want the trash taken out, or you didn't do the dishes the way they like loaded the dishwasher, they wanted to load the dishwasher, they get upset. The reactivity is there, right? That's an identity, like being identified with an opinion, a thought formation. Michelle, you're here, you started this whole conversation. I'll let you end the conversation. Do you think of something? We'll come back again next week and talk more about it because there's a lot to talk on around identity, because this is the desire. This is the suffering. The compulsion to build an identity is the suffering. And I want to talk about it enough so that people stop suffering, right? Yeah. So go ahead, Michelle. Thank you.
Thank you, Poonam. It's funny that you should talk about how meditation should look like, right? So this is my practice in the morning. I don't take a lot of time, but I do kind of wake up in the morning and kind of, sorry about that. And I start to feel, it's my son. I start to feel like the inner body, and then I get myself out of bed and I'll start to meditate, right? So it's not a long meditation, but it's just an example. It's just an example. So I'm sitting in the room and I'm on my mat, and then my son knocks on the door and says, good morning, and interrupts my meditation, right? So I can choose to get angry. Oh my God, I'm sitting here meditating and I should be quiet. But he comes and gives me a kiss and a hug. And I turn around and I say, good morning, Joseph, how are you? Right? So that is part of my meditation, is how I'm going to respond in that moment that I'm supposed to be meditating, right? And then I let him say good morning or whatever. And then I'm saying, give me 5 more minutes and I'll be out, So it's like, how should meditation, that is your meditation. Whenever you're interrupted or whenever, you're really involved in something and then something takes you out of it for whatever reason and out for the full acceptance, that's part of the practice, right? So I think whenever you're identified with however something should appear, because that's what we've been, the face of it, right? So when we can challenge that and allow for whatever comes up to arise, and then kind of bring yourself back to it and then say, it's okay. It's not like judge my meditation session because it wasn't what it was supposed to look like. So it was perfect, right? And what it was supposed to offer. So I think that and also what I've learned, which is kind of beautiful in my training, where I used to worked in the world of disability. And so there was part of my training, one of the first days was people first language. So when you're talking about, he is blind or he has autism, and we redirect ourselves and say, no, he has a visual impairment, he has autism, he has an intellectual disability, but he is not that label. So it takes us back to really seeing that person. It doesn't matter if he's a disability, he is not the disability, right? So it was really interesting because I'd been reading Eckhart and listening, and then I come into this new position. This is 10 years ago. And that was like one of the first things they taught you. And not to judge those that say it, because, but as a professional, right, in this world, you should honor the person. And I'm like, yes, so in line with all of this. So I thought that came up to me as everybody was talking, like, yeah, so it was beautiful sharing with all of you. Thank you for allowing me.
Thank you, Michelle. We're grateful to you for bringing up the question, and grateful to our panel members and everyone online that has contributed. I know Lakshmi had some input, some really creative insights. So grateful, eternally grateful, and have a fantastic day and many blessings to all. Much love. Good night. Bye. Thanks.
Bye.